to start a CSAR session. So it's a session with 4 cryptanalysis papers of CSAR candidates. So for those of you who don't know the CSAR competition, it's a competition to design new authenticated encryption scheme. It started 4 years ago in parallel with the snake oil crypto competition. And so when we got those submissions, we were not sure whether they would be published before the next stage of the competition, but luckily the Tusk journal has a very fast review process, so we could get all the papers ready before the advancement of the competition. And so to start this session, we'll have a first talk about understanding RUP integrity of COLM by Nilanjan Datta, Atul Hughes, Bart Menning, and Ridul Nandi, and Nilanjan is giving the talk.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So myself, Nilanjan, as you have already heard, from Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, and I'll be talking about understanding RUP security, that is RUP integrity explicitly of COLM. As we all know, authenticated encryption is a scheme of 2 algorithms basically. One is tagged encryption that takes a message and associated data and logs, and the key and generate a tagged ciphertext, that is a ciphertext with a tag. And the second one is verified decryption that takes a tagged ciphertext and associated data and nonce and a key as input, and first it verifies whether it is a valid tagged ciphertext or not. If it is valid, then it returns the message, and if it is not valid, then it just aborts. Any authenticated encryption scheme usually requires 2 securities. First one is for the privacy, that is the PRF security. So here the adversary can make some queries either to the encryption oracle or to a random function. And after the interaction, it has to say whether it has interacted with the encryption oracle or the random function. And the advantage is given by this one. And for integrity, for any authenticated encryption scheme, we consider integrity of ciphertext, that is, an adversary can make some queries to the encryption oracle and get corresponding ciphertext and tag pairs, and after that it has to forge, or it has to generate a fresh nonce associated data ciphertext tag pair for which the verification succeeds. So the definition is given as follows: the advantage of int ctxt, and we call A forges if it makes a valid fresh query to the verification oracle. Now, other than these 2 security, some limited, there are many issues on authenticated encryption in for some particular application-oriented restrictions, like limited buffer implementation. So as we all know, small devices may have very limited buffer. So in those type of scenarios, limited buffer essentially means that release of unverified plain text. Because suppose you are considering a decryption of a message of length 200 blocks, but suppose you have a buffer of size just 100 blocks. So what you have to do, after 100 blocks, you have to release some plain text. So this unverified plain text might leak some information about the schemes. So if the encryption query length is more than the buffer size, then this problem arises. And to handle this problem, basically Andrew et al. Proposed the model of int RUP, that is integrity under releasing under unverified plain text model. So here the decryption oracle and the verification oracle are considered separately. So we break down the verified decryption oracle from verified decryption oracle to decryption oracle and the verification oracle. So what the adversary can do, it can make some encryption queries, it can as well as do some decryption queries, and finally it has to forge. That is done by that VK oracle. So after making some encryption and decryption query, if it can forge, then we call it is inter-UP. It gets success against the inter-UP adversary. And this model is actually considered very highly even in the CSAR competition, as in one of the use cases it has been clearly mentioned that inter-UP security of authenticated encryption schemes of the schemes are desirable. So moving to our COLM type structure. So this is COLM is, as we all know, is a merger of COPA and ELMD, and currently is a third round Caesar candidate. So this is basically the structure of COLM. So first the IV is generated from the nodes and the associated data, and then we have two layers basically. So it's an encryption layer, then an online mixing layer, and then an encryption type layer. As you can see, there is the encryption layer, then an online mixing layer, and then again an encryption layer. This encryption can be actually used by block cipher decryption as well. And a linear mix function row is used. So what is this row function? So it takes two input x and y, x and w, and it gets two output y equal to ax and plus bw, and w prime is cx and dw. And we are considering generalized COLM structure, so it can take any a, b, c, d, but given that the fact there are some restrictions due to the invertibility, that from w and y it should be possible to get back x for the decryption. And for COPA, one can easily check that this A, B, C, D all values are 1, as COPA uses the simple XOR in both the directions. And for ELMD, we have A and C equals to 1, and B is 3, and D is 2. Now, coming to the RUP security, we first revisit an inter-UP attack on COPA. So, first step is finding a non-trivial state correction. So, as we have already seen, the COPA uses plain XOR. So, the state value WI, that depends entirely on the ciphertext CI, just the last ciphertext block. And this essentially gives that if I make a two-block chunk like C10 and C2, any two-block chunk, and where the second block matches, then it ensures that there is a state condition in W2. So this basically gives, so for these two, the second block matches, so it would give a same W2. Similarly, if C4 as C4 matches, it will give a same W4. As C12 matches, it will give a same W12. So keeping this property in mind, one can make this inter-UP attack on COPA. So it first makes a RUP query on a nonce, any nonce and associated data, with just keeping the even blocks same. For make two RUP queries with the even blocks are identical, and the odd blocks are random. So if it can make these two queries, then we make an encryption query with one of these messages. So suppose for the first message, and gets the tag, and finally using Gaussian elimination with very high probability, it can find that sum of the MI blocks is equal to M1 of B1s or M2 of B1 this way. So if L is greater than equal to N, then one can find that with very high probability, and with that observation one can forge with this ciphertext query. Coming to the next, so the nonce misuse inter-UP attack on COLM. Now we are coming to the generalized version of COLM, and we are considering a nonce misuse attack. So consider these encryption queries. So first we make an encryption query with first block as M1. It gets an output, say C1, C2, C3. Now it makes a RUP query with the second block as C2. Suppose the second plaintext block is M2 prime. It makes another decryption query with the last block as C3. Suppose it gets the plaintext back with the third block as M3 prime. Now if we make another query with the second block as M2 prime and the third block as M3 prime, then one can check that the last query is W3 value. So W3 value corresponding to this query is independent of M1, whereas it should have some dependency of M1, because this query, this M2 prime and M3 prime are coming from C2 and C3, which is essentially coming from this query, and that means that it should have some influence on M1, but actually it is not happening. Why? So essentially what is happening, the contribution of x10, so that this x value, the contribution of this in W3 is coming from two ways, so coming from x23 and coming from x12, and which are again coming from these c values, so these are coming from these y values, and essentially the exact contribution of these two actually cancels each other out. So basically the W3 value would be independent of this x10, that means independent of this m1. So with this, that last query is W3 is independent of m1, and that straightforwardly implies that evaluating this process twice, so if we perform these encryption and decryption queries twice, then we can find two different messages M10, M20, M30, and M11, M21, and M31 with identical identical W3. So now using this observation, we mount the inter-RUP attack. So first step is find M01 and this M11 such that W3 matches. So these two W3 matches. Then stretch the state collision. So next, then find M02 and M12 such that this W6 matches for these two, and just continue till L. So up to W3L, so it should match. So using this, so we can mount the attack as follows. So make first an encryption query with M01 to M0L, and then an encryption query with M11 to M1L, and finally we actually need to find B1 to BL such that the checksum corresponding to this should match with this. And if we can find this, actually if N is greater than or equal to N, we can find it with very high probability, and then we can forge with this ciphertext step. Now again extending this nonce misuse attack to nonce respecting attack, inter-RUP attack on COLM. So so in the previous case we have seen that we are using same nonce for both the encryption queries. Now we are actually using, now it is in the scenario of nonce respecting, that means only one encryption query can be made with a single nonce. So again here we observe that if we make two RUP queries, C1, C2 up to Cn plus 1 and C11, C2, Cn plus 1, that is basically just the first block differs and all other blocks are same, then using the primitive polynomial of the underlying field, one can find M10 to Mn plus 1 0, whose Wn plus 1 value matches with the Wn plus 1 value of the second method, using the primitive polynomial. And actually the use of this primitive polynomial essentially demands that the length should be of more than n, so it should be of at least n plus 1. And using this observation, again we mount the attack. Again we can, as the first step, we can find non-trivial state collision for two messages of length n plus 1, and we can again stretch that up to L many blocks, and finally we mount the attack as follows. So first we make a decryption RUP query on M01 to M0L and gets this ciphertext and tag, and then basically we need to find B1 to BL such that this checksum should match with this checksum. If it matches, it would match. Actually, if we take L greater than N, then this should match with very high probability. We will find one such D1 to BL, and using that we forge with this. So basically we have constructed we have shown RUP insecurity of COLM type structure for any general structure COLM of using any ABCD, and however this result does not refute any security claims of COLM 0 and COLM 127 that was made in the third round of Caesar competition, because they haven't claimed anything about the inter-UP security, but here we are actually providing the insecurity of inter-UP security. And this attack actually essentially provides an importance of the intermediate tags used in COLM 127. So this essentially says that with COLM 0 you cannot achieve inter-UP security, but since COLM 127 is using the intermediate tags which can actually resist any leakage, unverified plain text leakage, so this actually gives the importance of that intermediate tags in COLM type structure. And towards inter-UP secure COLM, so one can have, if the message length is very small, so if the message length is of length of order n square, then we can use this type of structure, because we are already seeing that for non-respecting adversary we are using n into n plus 1 many blocks. And another option is to get a state encryption after each n block. So we are finding that using the primitive polynomial we can match that state after n plus 1 many blocks. So if we, before that n plus 1 many blocks, so after n plus n many blocks, if we add a block cipher encryption in the state, then we possibly can have an inter-UP secure COLM, but then essentially the main idea of COLM, that having the complete parallelization, that actually gets hampered. And thank you. So if you have any questions.
No questions? So I just ask an easy one. Do you know about the status of other Caesar candidates? Do they claim RUP security, and do they provide it? Other Caesar candidates, are there any other candidates claiming RUP security?
Not really. So there are some like OCB with checksum or OCB with parity, but those are not Caesar candidates.
Okay, thank you. So that's fine.